Oh, I guess we're not going to listen to the intro music today. What happens? What happens, Simon? See what he say. No, we don't need to replay. It's okay. I think people have heard the song already. Um, yeah, it shouldn't be corrupted, Simon. But anyway, everybody, welcome. Sorry we had a technical snafu. I guess that's what we get for uh, having a producer up at 1 a.m. So I'm glad that everybody's here. I have an awesome show. You want to put up the slide, Simon? I have an awesome show today. My very first guest coming on the show for the second time is Scott Hunter. If you guys remember from the very beginning of Rock in the Code World, is Scott Hunter was my very first guest. And so I'm really appreciative that he's willing to come back on the show after being on the show once. So I always worry about that. Well, will they want to come back? So anyway, we're going to be talking about what's talking with Scott all about C# 6 on today, and so please start sending your questions now. This is the man. If you have any questions about .NET 6, this is the guy to ask. And so start sending your questions. And so before we get started, before the show, and maybe because I've been cooped up in my house too long, I kind of wonder, what people do on the weekends because, we haven't got out very much in the last 2 years. And so, oh, wait, the video's corrupted. Let me see. Never mind. I was going to show you a video of what I do on the weekends, but Simon's telling me somehow it got corrupt getting to India. So I guess I won't do that. So Scott Hunter is going to be the guest just coming up in a minute or so. And I'm very excited about that. So again, start sending your questions. I first met Scott. I don't know if I did this the first time he was on the show. I guess I should have looked this morning. But I first met Scott when he came, and he was the main speaker for my retirement party at the San Diego.NET Developers Group. I started that group in 1994, along with about 4 or 5 other people. And I ran the group for most of the time it was there. And now I'm enjoying my retirement from the group. But we had a really great time. We had this big party. We had catered food. All the food was sponsored. It was catered. DevExpress was there, along with some other companies. We had music in the beginning with one of my best friends, Rod, who I actually hung out with last weekend at a guitar show, and some of the band people that are currently in his band. And we provided the music, and so that was really fun. And here's a picture of Scott and I afterwards, or before, I can't remember which. I was looking at this picture today. I was going, Scott's probably thinking, get your hand off my shoulder, you big oaf. So anyway, that's when I first got to meet Scott, and I've known him ever since. He's a great guy, and I can't wait to get to talk to him again. He's not in his car this time. Last time he was doing the show from his car in the Microsoft parking lot. So I thought that was interesting, but that's not the case today. So I can't wait to talk to Scott again. Oh, yeah, there's a video grab of the very first show, me laughing about something, and there's Scott. And so anyway, bringing back memories, Scott. I have a brand new article out on C# Corner. This is part 3 of everything that every .NET developer needs to know about disposable types. I hope you will check it out. I think this will be the last article in this series, unless some people have some other burning questions about disposing and memory management in .NET. So if you do have questions, please make a comment. And actually, at the very end of this article, I put a question to you all, and so far I haven't got any responses yet. But at the very end of the article, I hope you go read the article. And in the very end, I was thinking, now that I've done these 3 articles, maybe I should turn this into a conference session, because I would say the vast majority of Microsoft.NET developers really don't truly understand how memory management works in .NET. And I will admit, I know some, but I'm definitely not an expert like the people at Microsoft. So if you want me to do a conference session on this subject, because these articles are becoming I think the #1 articles I've written on C# Corner. And so I thought maybe I should do a conference talk. So let me know. Do you put it in the chat and see if we get any comments, or just a reply to the article. Okay. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to bring on Scott Hunter, is responsible for Microsoft's .NET platform, which includes the .NET Framework, .NET Core, ASP.NET, any Framework, .NET Tools, Web Tools, and managed languages C#, F#, and VB. Are you in charge of any more, Scott? Prior to leading the .NET platform, Hunter helped the Azure Developer Experience team build the Azure SDKs, App Service Tooling, Azure Redis Cache, Azure API Management, ASP.NET, any framework, and the web tooling. And in spare time, he likes to hike the mountains in Washington State and around the world. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Dave. And it's nice to be here without a car this time. It's actually nice to be in the house.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of worried about the car and spotty, cell phone coverage, and going, oh man, it's going to go down. And what am I going to do the first show? I lose my guest halfway through, right?
It worked out.
Yeah, it did. And I really appreciate you being the first guest on my show and coming back on the show and sending me this C# hat.
I was going to say we have matching hats. I was hoping you were going to talk about that. It's like
yeah,
C# rocks.
Well, C# rocks, and when you were the first guest on my show, I blurted out that, where do I get a C# hat like that? And so you had Jeff Fritz send it to me. It took a while, but that's okay. And I finally have it now. I wear it like every 3 shows or so, or depending who's my guest. And yeah, so send me more hats, people at Microsoft. I'll wear any Microsoft hats. Just send them to me.
I've also got a special, there's only 3 of these in the world. I've also got the .NET hat. And it's got the, what side's the right side? It's got the
it's got your Twitter handle on it. Yeah.
I have to thank Glenn Condron, who drives the ASP.NET team for the hat. Glenn is the person at Microsoft responsible for all the frameworks that sit on top of .NET.
Yeah.
So, but we were in Las Vegas for a show, and they custom made Glenn a hat, me a hat, and somebody else got one too. There's, I think, Brady Gaster. So I think Brady, Glenn, and I are the only 3 that have those hats.
Now we're jealous. Everybody's jealous now. Well, that's cool. Yeah. But anybody listening from Microsoft, I'll accept more hats. Actually, from any company, software company, I'll wear your hat. As long as it's not like just blatant advertising, like buy my product thing, unless you pay me. If you pay me, then to wear your hat, Telerik, I will be glad to wear your hat.
I see where you start, Dave. If I'm going to send you a hat that says buy.net.
Yeah. And I'll send you the check. So, I mean the invoice.
I'll take a check, Dave.
No check. Invoice. So, you were a big part of C# Conf. So how did that go for you? How do you think it went from your perspective?
I think .NET Conf went amazingly well.
Yeah.
It's one of the most exciting parts for me is, .NET used to ship every 3, 4, 5 years. And as we reimagine the platform, we now ship .NET every year. And there's a .NET Conf every November, and there's a .NET release every November. Yeah. And it was funny. We were doing .NET Conf this year. And at the end of it, I sat back and I'm watching the people come up and do the various demos, and I'm like blown away. Because I remember back when we shipped .NET Core 1.0, that was in the summer, or which would be like June of 2016. .NET Core 1 was not very good. It was
No,
it
it wasn't really usable.
it was hard to use. I was telling somebody yesterday it was hard to use because it was the first version of the new reimagined .NET, and
Yeah.
it didn't have very many APIs in it.
Yeah.
You got to start small anyways, and
Sure.
so it didn't have a lot of APIs. It was all based on packages, which meant it was hard to use because you had to include a package for every part of the framework you used. But I look at the journey between 2016 and 2021, and I was blown away by looking at the demos and saying, "Wow, look at where C# gone. Look, we have an amazing WinForm WPF experience. We have an amazing ASP.NET experience along with Blazor. Blazor WASM took another step in .NET 6. And then the Maui tech we have coming on. It's amazing to me what we've done in those 5 years. I think .NET's moved faster in those 5 years than it had how many years in the 16 years before that. So I don't know if people know this, but .NET will actually be 20 years old in February of next year.
I do. Yeah, and you did it during a pandemic. I mean, you released 2 versions during a pandemic. That's got to be pretty difficult, when all this craziness has been happening, with, lockdowns and shutdowns and can't go in the office and all these kind of things. So you guys did it. I have to hand it to you. I was surprised. I thought you were going to slip, some of these dates.
I didn't know what was going to happen, honestly. I will say, the pandemic, for if Microsoft employees, we've all been working from home since March of 2020 or 2019. When was it? When did it start? 2020. March of 2020. So we're basically 3 months away, 3 or 4 months away from almost 2 years, being remote. The biggest thing that I think what I miss from being in the office is I miss whiteboards. A lot of the best thinking that comes in .NET comes when a bunch of us sit in a room together and just draw on a whiteboard together for hours and hours and hours at a time. And while Microsoft Teams is a great solution for doing remote meetings and stuff like that, it doesn't bring the whiteboard experience. And we have a whiteboard feature inside of Teams and stuff. It's not the same. And so I miss that. And the other thing that I miss is one of the ways that we make .NET better is people like Glenn, Damian Edwards, Kathy Sullivan, Tim Hewer, Scott Hanselman, and myself. Also, we'll get in a room and we'll just write code together.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, let's try to go and do this with .NET today. And the fun thing is we'll move the keyboard around various different people. Like one day it might be me, one day it might be Glenn, one day it'd be Damian, and which means we don't have the domain experience in whatever we're coding. But that's also the point because we're like, why is this so hard to do? So one of my favorite features in .NET 6 is going to be some of the simplification work we did in C#. We call this we overuse the term. We call it minimal APIs, but really what we did is we looked at we had a great experiment we did about a year ago. We actually brought a bunch of Python and Node.js developers in and tried to teach them .NET. And we asked them, what was good, what was bad, what was easy, what was good, what was bad from those things. And we learned that .NET just had too much stuff. I mean, once again, if you write a console application, we've all done this a million times. There's a namespace, there's a bunch of usings, there's a class, there's a static void main method, and all these other languages, you just start writing code. And so we asked ourselves, why the heck can't we do that? And some of that shipped in C# 9, where we could get rid of the classes and namespace and stuff like that. In C# 10, we have what we call global usings, which you can actually define a file that contains all the usings you want for your entire application, and you'll never have to use those anywhere else. If you build, any of our default templates, they are special as well. Where if you build an ASP.NET project, we don't require any of the ASP.NET usings because we put those in automatically for you.
Right.
But to me, that's it just makes .NET so much easier to pick up and so much simpler. And I was going to say, in one of those coding rooms, we do go in the office a little bit. So I go in normally one or 2 days a week if I can. We have a pretty cool policy at work. Nobody can be in the buildings unless you're fully vaccinated, which means once you're in the buildings, there's no mask required. But we're in the buildings and we're looking at the first cut of this minimal API thing, and there's a typecast on every friggin' line. And I'm like, what the heck? And this is because we're using delegates. You know, basically you say, give me this URL, and we'll then map that to some code, and we write the code in line using a delegate. Well, delegates, you know, required you to use a func of something. It's like func of int string, which is, I'm like, why does every line have one of these func of things? And there's a typecast there. And that led to Maria and Mads on the team making the compiler smart enough to go, hey, I can tell what you're trying to do here. No typecast required. But that literally it's that coding in the whiteboard room that makes .NET better like this. As I said, it was getting those Node developers and Python developers to try .NET and tell us what was hard. And then us sitting in a room together coding and asking ourselves the question, why are we doing all these typecasts? I'm still a little grumpy as well that we still do too much async. Why does async require all these extra keywords on everything you do? And so we didn't go that far in C#10, but I asked the team the question, why don't we just make async on by default if you're an ASP.NET project? So you don't have to mark all your methods as async.
Are you going to bring that to other projects? Just curious.
I don't know.
So speaking about the whiteboard, I was just thinking when you were talking about it's not the same online, and I'm sure it's not. And you should try one of these. Right? This is I use this for drawing and stuff. It's one of these. My pen's around here somewhere, but you just draw on it like you would, like on a board, right? Because drawing with a mouse really sucks. Right?
It really sucks.
Yeah. So you could use this pen thing. It just plugs into your USB and just use that. But yeah, I understand. Yeah, I used to go in the office one afternoon a week, and I do miss that because I don't get to see my, fellow workers, and we don't get to go to happy hour after we're done for the day, and we all know that most of the real work gets done at happy hour and things like that, right?
That is true. That is so true.
Yeah.
I was going to say that was the best part of .NET Conf was I got to see a bunch of people I've not seen in probably 2 years.
Yeah.
We had Maddie from the Maui team come out from Boston. We had Jamie and Maria, who both live on the East Coast. They came out as well. And then I saw people like Matt. So
Jeff, did you say Jeff already?
So what?
Did you say Jeff already?
Jeff was out as well.
Yeah,
I did not say Jeff. Jeff was out. Beth Massey was up from San Francisco. But I think we all tweeted about this. It was great to just hug each other.
Yeah.
It's like it sounds crazy to talk like that, but after all these years, after almost 2 years, it is great to see those people in person and be on stage with them. It was great. This is the first .NET Conf we've done, since COVID started, that we were all in person in a studio.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm bummed out this week about the announcement for the MVP Summit. And there's not going to be an MVP Summit again next year. And so that for me, because I didn't go the year before COVID hit, and so that'll make 3 years now that I haven't been able to see any of my MVP friends. And I look forward to that conference more than any other conference I ever go to. Right? That to me, being an MVP, that's the best conference I could ever go to. Right? And so now 3 years in a row of missing it. But, like you said, the most important part is being with my friends. I can't sit around and talk to them and see what they're doing and see the issues they're having or things, these kind of things from people around the world, I can't really do very well. I mean, the only MVPs I've talked to pretty much are on my show, and
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The MVP Summit is just not the same virtual.
No, I didn't even
even
watch it this year. Yeah.
even for us as people that present the sessions at those things, the best part of the real MVP Summit was all of you coming up after a session and asking us questions in person,
Yeah.
going out to dinner, hanging out in the rooms together.
Right.
That is, you can't put a price on that stuff. That is priceless. That is, and even, all the conferences we go to that are virtual right now, you miss that. There's no form of chat that makes up for, the only thing I'll say that only good part of the pandemic to me has been the first year of the pandemic. I way overdid this, but I went and spoke at a ton of user groups because I could do it from my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found that the user groups were better online because people would ask questions, because people could ask questions in some cases anonymously. They would ask questions they would not maybe ask me in at a real event.
Right.
But I missed the in-person stuff so much.
Too.
I'm going to miss the summit as well, not being in person again. Hopefully, maybe by Build or the next Ignite, we'll start going back to in person again. I will say, if I look at the .NET Conf numbers, the .NET Conf numbers last year were the biggest numbers we ever had, and I think it was because it was we were the start of doing like some of the online events. This year, we've seen the online events not do as well, and I think we all have like some virtual fatigue, where how many?
It's tougher to watch online events to me.
It is,
yeah. And there's
tougher.
Too many distractions. That's what I meant to say. It's too many distractions because you're in your home and there's stuff happening, right?
Yep. You got kids running around, you got your partner running around, whatever it is. So I agree 100%. And I think the other problem is with the virtual events is I'm doing 8 hours a day of virtual meetings for work. And so by the time I'm done working, I don't really want to go watch any more videos. I remember when the pandemic first started, we had all these Zoom calls. We had Zoom calls where we just, drink whiskey. We had a whiskey one. And they kind of slowed down as the pandemic went on, because as I said, as we got into this normal habit of doing 8 hours of video a day, I didn't want to do another hour of video after I was done working. I'm like, turn the dang thing off.
Yeah, I understand. That's got to be, especially you being in the management, you are probably in meet. That's all you do all day is meetings pretty much. And
that's all I do. So like, a typical day for me, the way that we run .NET is we have what we call director reviews. And so it's me on the product management side, and John Cunningham on the engineering side. And, on a weekly basis, we'll see the team building the VCL, base class libraries. We'll see the team building WinForms and WPF. We'll see the teams building Maui. We'll see the ASP.NET team. We see the team that actually builds the actual product and deploys it, with installers and stuff like that. And so, my week is typically full of some flavor of all those kinds of things. Plus meeting with, the .NET PM team's a decent sized team. And so there's a lot of meeting with the individual people on the team as well. And so, as I said, it literally is 8 hours of video conference a day is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, gosh. And maybe that's why I still like coding.
Yesterday was the best workday I've had in probably 6 weeks. I wrote code for 4 hours.
Wow.
One of the things that's important to all of us on the .NET team is, to be on the team and to make the product better, we have to write code. You just can't sit and do these meetings and stuff like that. You have to write code. And so I got a chance yesterday to sit down and try some new Azure features, try some of the Visual Studio 2022 features. And as usual, I found bugs. But that's, I will tell anybody, if you're working in the technology space, don't get away from code. Write code.
Yeah. I think that's super important. And I just recently have been talking to somebody about that because, I've been trying to, move my career back to being more into lead or maybe even to some kind of management stuff. And, I always tell people is that the one problem one of the biggest reasons I've avoided going into management, because I was asked a long time ago to go into management and I decided not to do it because I felt the second I would go into management, I would instantly be out of touch, right? Because management, you're in meetings 8 hours a day. So how can you be in touch with what's really happening, right? And so I kind of avoided it. And even, but you remind me of like one of the very, very first programming conferences I ever went to was in San Francisco. It was either 94 or 95. And Bill Gates was supposed to be the big speaker that year. And for some reason, he bowed out of it at the last second. And they sent the guy who ran Word at the time, or Office. And I still remember his talk because some of the things he said in there was exactly what you're doing. He said that all managers on Office must code, right? And then he told me some other stuff, like if you break the build, then you have to babysit the build overnight and things like that. But that concept of making managers at least do a little bit of coding so they stay in touch, I was going, wow, that's awesome. But at least in the companies I work at, I don't see that happen, right? And once you go into management, that's it. Your coding life is over. And but I think that's super important, especially on teams like yours where you're building languages, and you really do need to understand what's going on, and especially when you're talking about it, right? And because you're one of the top guys in this area. I mean, in your department, and you got to know what you're talking about, right?
Right. Right. I always tell people it's like I spend a good chunk of my time also talking to customers, and and my customers are developers, and so they're going to read right through me if I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to know very quickly I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and they'll check out. Yeah,
and they'll check out exactly. And so I don't know if I'm a great speaker, but what I like to say is I'm an authentic speaker, meaning that one of the things I tell my team is most of the conferences I do, I write the demos myself. By the way, that's also I was thinking as we talked about this whole thread of conversation. One of the things that I also miss a lot by not having the in-person conferences is that was always a chance for me to go code. Like I would, you fly to a city and you spend the night before the talk in the hotel working on your demos, and I cannot tell you how many bugs we've fixed in .NET with either Scott Hanselman, especially if it's one of the events, a bigger event where Scott Hanselman and I together will be presenting. He and I will sit in a room and work on demos for 6 hours, and that's when you find the bugs. It's really using the product and trying to use all the newest features, and so .NET Conf was great from that experience. That it meant I got a chance to go and sit down and spend a couple days in front of the keyboard, working on demos again. But I haven't done it yet, but I one of my new things is I'm going to have my I'm blessed enough to have a business administrator that manages my calendar at work, and I'm going to make sure that person actually gets me 4 hours a week of coding off my calendar, so I get a chance to do that kind of stuff, because that's I can't tell you .NET is what it is today because a bunch of us sat down and coded together. And actually, I think coding together is actually even more important than coding by yourself.
Yeah, I remember a number of years ago, I at the MVP Summit, I always stay an extra day and go to the hackathons because I end up liking the hackathons a lot more than a lot of the sessions I go to at the summit, because I learned a lot and I get to network a lot. And so one year I was doing a hackathon with the Xamarin team when they were coming out with, I forget what it's called now, but it's Xamarin Docs or something where you can run code in web pages and things like that.
Yep.
And in that one, you know, 6 or whatever hour stint I did sitting alongside with Xamarin people, I think I found 5 or 6 bugs in their stuff. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I was new. And so I tend to find things when it's new, but yeah. So everybody, make sure you ask questions for Scott about anything. But do you want to talk about .NET 6 a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about .NET 6 a little bit. .NET 6.
Oh, go ahead.
The big thing with .NET 6, and I think the most important thing is we tried to do this in .NET 5, but pandemic and we just didn't have time. One of our goals has been to unify the platform. And if you ask what unification really means, you've been around for long enough, Dave, to know, we had the .NET framework. It has its base class libraries. We built .NET Core starting in 2016. It came with its own different set of base class libraries. And then the Xamarin technology for building mobile apps was built on top of Mono with its set of base class libraries. And finally, in .NET 6, no matter what type of application you build, whether it's a mobile application, whether it's a web application, a desktop application, they all share the exact same base class libraries,
yes.
Which is great for me because it means I fix a bug in one place and everybody gets the bug fix. We don't have to worry about, we fixed it in .NET Core, now we have to go fix it in Mono. So I think, that's a big thing there. And another part of that unification that I think is really important is, with .NET 5, we had WinForms, WPF. We brought those things. They came back in 3 actually, but they're in 5. But the Xamarin projects were still kind of their own independent things. They didn't use the same project system. They didn't use the same base class libraries. And it's great to bring those workloads. We renamed Xamarin Maui in .NET 6, and part of the reason we renamed it was there's 2 things. Number one, we wanted to make it part of .NET. This sounds crazy to me, but there's customers out there that still like, yeah, they're going to kill Xamarin off. It's not really part of .NET. And I'm like, what better way can we solve that than actually put it into .NET? And so it's no longer an independent thing. And so to me, it's the unified release because for the first time ever, we have one SDK for all your project types. We have one base class libraries for all your project types. We have one project system for all your project types. Everything is back and using the exact same tech. And so that's unification is a big piece of .NET 6. And then, while we're on the subject of like Maui and stuff like that, I think that's a cool aspect of the tech as well, which is Xamarin, which we acquired in 2016. That was the libraries for building iOS and Android applications. We've taken Xamarin to the next level with Maui. Now the Maui tech, you can build Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. So literally you can build a single application
for
and
pretty
it runs
much everything.
on all the devices.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It didn't GA. Sadly, it didn't GA this week. As part of .NET 6, it's in preview still. It will GA probably 2 or 3 months down the road. We just, we made a lot of changes. I was telling somebody, I'm like, okay, so we replaced the base class libraries. We replaced the project system. We went from a single project. Before Xamarin, you'd have a single project. You'd have a different project for every device type you had. And we pulled all that down. We added iOS and we added Mac and Windows. And I'm not surprised we didn't GA that thing. That's a lot of changes to do in a single release. But I'm super excited about that tech. And that tech also, unlike things like Flutter, this tech lets you get the best experience in every device because we use the actual UI kits from every device. If you're on Windows, we're using WinUI. If you're on the Mac, we're using Mac Catalyst. If you're on iOS or Android, we're using the native tech. And so the Maui tech is amazing because it gives you a native feel, a native experience on all the devices, but you can still write across all the devices. And then I think we really took it up to the next level with the ability to add Blazor components to a Maui app. And so I think all of us probably know there's this thing called Electron. And Electron is this way that you build desktop applications with Node.js and the web. And lots of apps that we all use: Microsoft Teams, Slack, Spotify, VS Code, Visual Studio Code. These are all Electron applications. And Electron's kind of cool because it means I'm a web developer and I can use my web skills to build desktop applications. Well, we asked ourselves the same question. Well, what if I'm a .NET web developer and I want to use my web skills to build desktop applications in .NET? So we let you take .NET MAUI and Blazor and blend them together. You can basically take in your .NET MAUI app, you can refer to a Blazor project and or a Blazor component, and we'll stick it right in your application. And so it means you can be a web developer using Blazor and build desktop applications, and those desktop applications can actually use all the native APIs on the machine. So what if you want to build a web app, but you want to talk to the file system? Or you want to build a web app that has access to the audio or video decoders and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about MAUI plus Blazor. And I don't think we ever said this, but the demos we built for the Build conference earlier in the year, we actually had it was a weather application that showed you the weather. It had some cool visualizations and stuff like that. But the cool aspect of it was that application was half the size of Hello World in Electron. and so one of the things Electron gets crap for is that the apps use a lot of memory and they're slow to load. The joke is like you can only run 2 Electron apps at the same time on a 32 gig machine. But the cool thing about using .NET plus Blazor is you get a really, really small footprint still. And I think that's an amazing part of the tech. So obviously that's a great part of .NET 6. And the final part of .NET 6, which we talked about a little bit before, is what we call the simplification. Every file project that you'll build in .NET 6, you do a Hello World app, like a console application, it's 1 line of code now.
I know, but that kind of scares me being a .NET developer. But the first time I did a new console app, I go, where's everything? What am I supposed to do?
But
yeah, I know, but I understand.
I'd rather scare you than have somebody that's using a different language that tries .NET and go, why is all this crap here?
Yeah. No, I understand.
And so it's amazing when you can say basically an empty web app is 3 or 4 lines of code. A console application is 1 line of code. I don't know if we got it right in .NET 6, but we do think that it's one of the things that we sit in a room and talk about and think about is how do we bring that next generation of developers into .NET?
Right.
And we have to make sure our tech looks modern to all those new developers. And so a lot of that work is really about trying to make .NET look easier to approach. You can still put all those things back. In fact, I assume you know this, Dave, but if you do one of those new console applications, what you don't know is there is still actually a static void main. If we don't see it, we just go make it for you, and we put your code inside of it. So I guess there's a little magic there. But getting all those usings ripped out, even namespace. I don't know if you know this. This is one that I think we've talked a lot about. Is if you look at the namespaces in .NET 6, like every .NET project, every file will have a namespace typically in it. When you file new something, there'll be every file in your project's gonna have a namespace. Right. And the first thing that namespace does is this namespace Dave's app, and there's a curly brace, which means your whole app is indented to the side. Why are we indenting the entire app? So in .NET 6, you can do namespace Dave's cool app semicolon, and that done. You don't have to do the braces. You don't have to indent your code. These are all small things, but as even for us, as we start using them, in our day-to-day work at Microsoft, it's amazing how much better the code looks. So anything we can do to reduce typecasting, anything we can do to reduce indenting, anything we can do to reduce using system, which every single file in a .NET project has.
No.
If we can take that out,
Yeah.
it just makes the text so much better. And so that was a huge part of .NET 6 as well, is the simplification. And I said, I think we're just starting. We'll go further. But we did go look at, we went and looked at if you built a Python API using Flask, or you built a Node app using Express. We then compared what .NET looked like and said, we don't like this. Let's go make it better. And but it you know, like yourself, I know it did freak out a lot of folks on Twitter. I mean, we did get some feedback. It's like, where did all my stuff go?
Who moved my cheese?
Don't you moved my cheese. But I do think it's the right thing to do for us to go build that next generation of .NET developers. That's part of our goal is to make sure that the 20th anniversary in February is not the last anniversary.
Right.
We need to have the 30th anniversary and the 40th anniversry. Speaking of the anniversary,
I'm glad you've done that, because I've always been kind of fearful of the end of .NET, because I figured, well, after a while, you guys will get tired of it and come up with something completely new and different, and so then I'll have to, then I'm, they'll lose a lot of my skills, and so I'm glad you're sticking with it, and you're really not putting a little effort into it. You're putting a huge amount of effort into it, right? And I think that's gotta give it to you guys to really doing this the right way. I know there's been ups and downs during the last 20 years, but it's, you guys really seem to be going in the right direction, at least to me, because now we can, like you were saying, we can all build apps for any kind of OS, right? And things like that, because we need that these days, right? It's like thinking you're the only country in the world. You're not, right? There's the whole world out there, and the same thing with everything else. And so, but because you were just talking about Maui, so someone did ask, what was the question? What's the new feature you love and can't live without? Would that be, the Maui Blazor connection or something else?
So the new feature that I could not live without is going to be hot reload. And so for folks, if you use a compiled language, and there's lots of compiled languages, C++, .NET, Java are all examples of compiled languages. The negative of a compiled language is it's slower to iterate on. If you're building a Python app or a Node.js app, you just change some code and your app just changes in real time in many cases, because those apps aren't compiled. Right. Basically, they're being interpreted at runtime, right. And so you can make changes very, very fast. And so as we started doing the Xamarin workloads or the Maui workloads or even the Blazor workloads, the thing you notice is, if you're in .NET 5 and you're building a Blazor app, it might take 9 to 10 seconds between you making a change and having it reflect in the browser. And so hot reload is giving that Node.js Python experience to a compiled language like .NET. So now I can make a change in the application and it reflects almost instantaneously in the browser or in the WinForm WPF or console, whatever it is. And so that's my favorite feature, because that to me was the biggest gap. If you're a Node developer and you came to .NET, you're like, wow, this is slow. Why do I have to? Yeah, the runtime performance is great. Compiled languages have great runtime performance, but they don't have a great design time performance. And so for me, my favorite feature in .NET 6 is going to be hot reload. And I'll tell everybody, we're just starting. Hot reload it'll take us 2 years to complete the journey. So what I'll ask you all to do, start trying to hot reload your application. And when it doesn't work, let us know. We need to know what scenarios are important. We can't make everything work all the time.
Sure.
But we need feedback from the customer telling us, hey, I tried to make this change and it required me to restart the app. Why? Please give me that feedback and we'll continue to make it better. That's my favorite feature in .NET 6.
Yeah. So does hot reload work in all the different application types or just ASP.NET?
Every application type.
Yeah. See, because before we've had ways to do that with ASP.NET, right? And before .NET 6, but now the hot reload is everywhere. Yeah.
We had a feature that's been around forever called Edit and Continue.
Yeah.
And Edit and Continue worked in all app types as well. The negative of Edit and Continue for me was you had to run the debugger. You had to launch the debugger, and you could only change code when you hit a breakpoint.
Yes.
So you had to wait to go hit a breakpoint, and then I could go change some code and then tell it to run again. With Hot Reload, we don't require you to attach the debugger at all. And so that's a huge change comparing it. In many ways, it's actually an improved version of Edit and Continue is what it really is. It's, in fact, it's using the same tech from Edit and Continue to do the work. And crazily enough, there's been controversy the last couple of weeks. It also works from command line too.
Simon was just giving me a heads up about the show. Threw me off. But before we go, though, I want to get to I think we have a couple questions. I think, Scott, Simon wants you to come to India in 2022 for the C# Corner Conference. So,
I'll come.
Yeah.
I'll come, Simon.
There you go, Simon. There you go. You have a commitment from Scott Hunter to come to India.
You just got to ask.
Yep. Is .NET 6 is .NET Standard still separate?
Okay, so that's a great question. So .NET Standard was something we created back in the very first iterations of .NET Core, .NET Core 1. And what .NET Standard is it's basically, it's not a physical thing at all. It's basically a list of all the APIs that exist in .NET Framework, Mono, and .NET Core. And so the idea is if you write a .NET Standard library, it will work across all the .NETs.
Right.
It still is important because we still have all the .NETs. We still have, now we primarily have .NET Framework and .NET 6. Mm-hmm. If you want to write code you can share across those things, .NET Standard is still important. Mm-hmm. If you're purely in the newer camp, .NET 6, it doesn't matter anymore because we put all the app types back into .NET. And so you've got your MAUI, you've got your ASP.NET, you got your WinForms WPFs, you've got your APIs and your gRPC. And so if you're just purely in the .NET 6 world, it doesn't matter. But it still matters while we still have .NET Framework. And I'm glad we brought this up, Dave. This is a great thing. One of the things that people might not have heard me say at .NET Conf was we have a minor update to .NET Framework that's coming next year. Like we as we started on this new .NET journey, we said we weren't going to really do new .NET frameworks. But there's going to be a .NET Framework 4.8.1 next year, and we're adding ARM64 support.
Wow.
So if you're a .NET Framework developer, or you got some older applications that are still on .NET Framework, you're going to be able to run those on ARM64 in the near future. And so look for those updates to come out sometime early next year.
Wow, it's amazing because you guys are Simon did ask, how are you so energetic and this much excited? Which kind of was one of the questions I was going to ask you at the end, and that was, what did you do the day after .NET Conf? And so maybe you could answer those two things at the same time because they kind of go together.
Well, the day after .NET Conf was yesterday. Yeah. And yesterday I went out with a bunch of those folks that I've not seen for the last 2 years, and we went out and had some celebration drinks.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that. Yeah.
Afterwards. So that's what I did right after .NET Conf. It's funny when you ask questions like, energy and excitement. I love .NET. Mm-hmm. And my dream job is working on .NET. And so the reason you see me being excited and happy and all this stuff is I get to work on the stuff that I love. And so, you see people that lead products, and they might lead a product because they're trying to get a promotion at work or something like that. Right. I work on .NET because I love .NET. And hopefully that shows, when I speak about it and I talk about it, people can see that, wow, this guy really is excited about this tech. I use it every day. I love it. And nothing makes me feel better than all the people that are using the product. It's the coolest thing about working in .NET is those, 5.5 million developers out there that are using it and giving us feedback on it. That makes our lives amazing.
Yes. Well, that's great. And before we go, because we have to go in a minute, I want to say that I'm glad .NET Standard's kind of gone, because that was such kind of a problem to try to explain to people. What's the difference between .NET Standard and .NET Core, and when should I use one over the other? And I mean, that just was so much confusion with people. I totally understood it. And, most of my open source assemblies were all .NET Standard, because I wanted them to work on, any
Everything.
platform. Right. But most developers just didn't get it very well. And so I'm glad that we don't have to worry about that either, anymore. That's good. Let's see. I think that's it of the questions, besides somebody trying to promote porn on my show now. This is second show in a row that they were promoting. I guess I'm so popular now, they're promoting porn on my show. I don't know what's going on. Crazy internet, right?
Yeah, we had some of those problems with the Visual Studio launch as well. By the way, just to let you know, you're not the only one that's a victim of this kind of stuff. We had some negative hate stuff. We actually had some hate stuff. We had a public chat, and people put some hate crap in there, and I'm like, we don't need this, folks.
No, that's. And I was kind of looking. You had for a lot of the .NET Conf, you had that big screen with all the tweets on it, right?
Yep.
And someone would go over to it and talk about a tweet, or ask one of the presenters a question from the tweet. And I was going, I wonder if someone's back there kind of looking at the tweets before they go on that TV screen, because someone's going to do something.
There was somebody back there making sure the wrong stuff never got on the screen, because unfortunately, it's a sad part of the world we live in. Is that people try to abuse these platforms.
I know, it's too bad. It makes it so much worse for the rest of us. And anyway, I gotta let you go, because Simon's got to go to bed because it's so late there now. And so I just want to say thanks a lot for coming on the show again. It's been great to catch up with you. I wish I was coming to Seattle in the beginning of the year to hang out with you guys, but I guess that's not going to happen this year. But maybe I'll try to make it up there for some other reason. I don't know.
We might be in San Diego soon. If we are, I will give you a call, and
yes. And if you're in San Diego, please give me a call. Yeah.
If I go to India to see Simon, are you going to come with me?
Of course.
Okay.
I go to India every year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we should do that all together.
Yeah. Well, in 2018, Mads and I spent 2 days together touring Delhi, just us two, and that's how I got to know Mads, and that was such an awesome experience. Just hanging around somebody like that, right, and getting to know, Mads, and because not only he's such a nice guy, he's just great to hang around with and talk to, and calm, and he worried about me at a couple places, walking up these kind of dangerous steps, and he was worried about me, and we had a great time. I hope that we all get to do, when we go to India next year, I hope we all get to do something in India together, because that's always a great time. But I should let you go. Before you go, do you have anything to plug besides .NET 6?
I would just say, please go download .NET 6, go download Visual Studio 2022, try Hot Reload, and give us feedback on what it doesn't do for you. Yep.
And use the feedback channel via Visual Studio.
Yes.
They do look at that. I've got a bunch of them up there, and I periodically go and see what the statuses are. And a couple of things recently have been fixed and put into Visual Studio or .NET. So use the feedback channel. They want that. Yeah.
We are customer driven. Please use the feedback channels.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'm so glad you came on the show, and thanks a lot for .NET Conf. This .NET Conf was the one I watched the most out of all the other ones, and so you guys did a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Simon, as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Scott. That was great. I wish I had another hour, but like I said, Simon's got to go to bed. So I want to talk about, Simon, can you put up the slides? Yeah. So if you want to learn the latest about .NET Performance on .NET 5 and 6, please go to this new page that I have on my website. I've got tons and tons of articles. It's basically what I'm doing is I'm putting my code performance book online. And so I hope you go check it out. I'm not done getting it all up there. I'm getting close to getting the original book up there. Plus I have lots more to put up there. And I hope you'll check it out because, some things got faster in .NET 6, but some things didn't. And they actually slipped a little bit over .NET 5. So you can go to that page and find out what those things are. Okay. Everybody, of course, wins a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. Just go to devexpress.com/.NetDave. CodeRush is the only refactoring tool I've ever used and will ever use. And so I hope you go check it out. It's a real fully versioned copy. It's not a stripped down, work 30 days copy. It's a real one you can use. I know all my team members get it because companies don't buy this stuff. And so they're using this to use it at work, which I wish companies would buy it. But anyway, so go check it out. And I'm going to do a dog fooding section. This video I'm about to show you is actually 16 minutes, but we can't really show a 16-minute video on this show because of time. So I cut it down to about 6. So those of you who don't know what the term dog fooding means, in the software world, it basically means, the people who make the product use the product, right? And so like if you're Office, you use Office. If you're Teams, you use Teams, right? That's because, and I think Scott kind of alluded to this, that, if the people making it use it, there's a much better chance it's going to be better because they're going to hit issues and bugs and things, and it's going to get into the product, right? But far too many companies, I feel, don't do this at all or not well enough. And so years ago, I started this series called Dog Fooding with David McCarter. This is actually one of those older videos. I'm working on some new ones right now. So please let me know if you like dog fooding. And so with that, Simon, play the video. Roll the tape. Hey, geeks. Welcome to another episode of Dog Fooding with David McCarter. I want to talk about a program I've been using for a long time today, and that product is Camtasia from TechSmith. Camtasia is a software that I use to record all of these videos, all of the .NET Dave, 256 seconds with .NET Dave videos, basically all my videos. I'm using a green screen, and Camtasia does have a green screen filter, and it works okay. It could be better. I'm going to put a moving background behind me, so you let me know what you think about Camtasia's green screen filter. So the first thing I want to talk about is a feature that many video editing applications have called Ripple Delete. So here I am. I'm going to delete the 2 tracks on the left, and I'm going to do the Ripple Delete, which will move the right tracks over. And you'll see, as soon as that happens, where I am in the timeline stays the same. It doesn't move to the beginning of the track, which really blows a lot of time for me. So you can see there, it didn't move to where that track began. So I have to do the back to do it. But the other thing is I always go back a second or so to see how the transition happens. So not only do I want it to go to the beginning of the track on the right, but also back up about a second so I can see the audio and video transition and make sure they're okay, because sometimes I have to undo and then do it again. So if Camtasia could do that, it would be really helpful. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure that when you do that Ripple Delete, it doesn't move other assets over. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have some text that comes up at a certain position in a track, right? When I do the Ripple Delete, that text track doesn't move with the rest of the track. Then I have to go and basically do all that by hand, and that's a real time waster. Here's something that really, really bugs me, and I cannot figure how to turn this off because it drives me insane. And actually, in the last video I recorded last weekend, this happened over 19 times. I just pull my hair out. So Camtasia's got this feature called quizzes. I'm not really sure what they do. As you'll see, it's constantly doing this plus thing to add a quiz, and I can't get the dang thing to go away. So here I'm just moving around on the track, and you're going to see this orange. See, there the quiz popped up, right? And the only way to go to get rid of it, because I don't want it, is to right mouse click on it, do delete. But then it's going to keep happening. Like I said, last week it happened over 19 times. Camtasia, please let me turn that freaking thing off. I don't want to do a quiz. Because of this, I don't know if I ever want to do a quiz. I use the pop-up effect a lot. So here I have a graphic I'm going to pop up, and I do the pop-up effect. I go over, I look and see which way I want it to come in. And then during, I usually always turn it off because I don't want things moving during the track. I just want it to move when that track is over and move off the screen. So I basically set up these pop-up effects the exact same way every single time. I pop it in, I turn off the during behavior, and then it pops out at the end. I really wish Camtasia would remember that, or let me make a template or something so I don't have to do that every single time I use a pop-up. This is an example of the drop shadow I was talking about before, where I set it up the exact same way. I have to set it to black, then I change the opacity, and then sometimes I change the offset and blur, but the color and the opacity I set the same way every single time, and I just wish programs like this would remember that. So this issue is another ripple delete issue, and this is a bug to me. And that is if I have two tracks, you're going to see here in a second, if I have two tracks I want to ripple delete, Camtasia will only move the right-hand track over just one of those tracks, not both of them, which it really should. So this to me is a bug. So you can see I'm going to select those two tracks there, then I'm going to do a ripple delete. But you can see the right-hand track only moved over one of those tracks sections, not both of them, and it really should have moved over both. Camtasia also has some issues with the mouse cursor being over more towards the right-hand side of the screen and things just happening. I didn't have anything selected. I was just moving around, and all of a sudden, my track disappears. So you can see there, I split the tracks, and then the playhead's going over, and all of a sudden the track disappears. I didn't do anything. So I hope this gives you a glimpse of, how I look at things being a software engineer, and how you should look at things being a software engineer to make it easier on your users. You want to make your users' life as easy as possible, because they're going to keep coming back or purchasing a program or purchasing licenses. When you don't do that, then your users are going to leave and you'll never get them back. So when you are doing the user interface for an app, please pretend you're a user, not a software engineer. And I think that will make your apps a lot better. Thanks a lot. And I hope you'll join me for another episode of Dog Fooding with David McCarter. So there's dog fooding. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you liked it, either by putting it in the chat, but though you have to do it really quick, or sending me an email or a tweet. But that's dog fooding. So I have lots of dog fooding examples that I'll be showing you, because I'm going to show you my one thing that I recorded was dog fooding for my Fire TV. So wait till you see that one. But anyway, I hope you liked it. I plan to kind of mix things up at the end of the show, do a new code rules, do a dog fooding, do a 256-second .NET Dave, depending on time and of course of everything. And so anyway, let me know how you like these little segments at the end. Of course, you can pick up a copy of my Dave McCarter Coding Standards for Microsoft.NET. I hope you do that. All programmers need coding standards, so I hope you'll start at least with my book. Here's some geek humor real quick. I thought that was pretty funny. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Shouting at people and doing nothing helpful. I'll put you down as management. That's the way I view most managers. Okay. Thanks for watching. I'm off again next week. Taking some time off now that the pandemic's winding down a little bit. So 2 weeks from now, I'll have the infamous Jeff Fritz, Principal Program Manager for the .NET community. If you watch .NET Conf, he was there, I think, pretty much the whole time. And so Jeff will be on my show. And I thought about doing a contest on what color his goatee will be. I don't know. Also, please listen to your medical professionals about COVID-19. I hear It's spiking in America in some places and other places in the world. So please, 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 we're not done yet with COVID. So please get your vaccine. Listen to your medical professionals and go donate blood. There's me donating blood. When I reached 10 gallons, I donated blood last Sunday, and I hit 13 gallons that donation, total, blood I've donated in my life. So it's free, easy, and it doesn't cost you a thing, and it makes you feel so good you're helping a fellow human. Okay, with that, please email me suggestions to rockandcodeworld@csharpcorner.com. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad Scott came. And I hope you have a great 2 weeks, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot.